We're going to do things a little bit different today. We are going to have a special meeting, so I'm going to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, August 21st, 2012. This matter is relevant to the fires in our county, and that's why we're having this special meeting today. There is a public comment period during the special meeting. Speakers may come up and give their name. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Comments should be limited to the matters within the jurisdiction of the board. Pursuant to the Brown Act, action or board discussion cannot be taken on open time matters other than to receive the comments and, if deemed necessary, refer them for appropriate follow-up. You may wish to speak on the special agenda. Seeing none, we'll move to R1, Board Matters. Consider adoption of a resolution which ratifies a proclamation declaring a local emergency due to fires burning in eastern Shasta County. Sheriff Pasenko.
Good morning, Tom Basanko, Shasta County Sheriff and Director of Emergency Services for Shasta County. Last week, a fire broke out in Tehama County. It was caused by lightning, and it was identified as the Ponderosa Fire. That fire quickly spread through Tehama County, the town of Manton, which is on the Tehama-Shasta borders, and then spread into Shasta County. On August 19th, I declared a local emergency as a number of homes were in peril and threatened. Additionally, Shasta County had lost 2 bridges along the Rock Creek Road area. At that time, the fire had about 105 engines assigned to it, 3 helicopters, 31 dozers, 20 water tenders, and nearly 1,000 fire personnel assigned to the fire to battle it. At that time, it had consumed about 7,000 acres, destroyed 4 structures, threatened about 3,000 residences and 20 commercial properties, along with about 300 outbuildings, forcing the evacuation of hundreds of people within the Shingletown and Viola areas. Also, the Manton area from Tehama County was evacuated as well, and we set up emergency evacuation centers. That fire has now grown to more than 19,000 acres with 35% containment. There was a total of 12 structures that have been destroyed in Shasta County and along about the 2 bridges that I spoke about previously. And now there are nearly 1,900 personnel assigned to the fire, and increases of equipment and other resources are committed. I also have a number of my personnel committed that have assisted in the evacuations of people and then continuing with security patrols for the evacuated areas. Section of Highway 44 is closed along with the ancillary roads feeding into it from about Shingletown through Viola. For all these reasons, I did declare a local emergency. As a result, if you ratify that today, I recommend sending that to the governor for a governor's proclamation as well. The board does need to review the need for continuing a local emergency at least once every 30 days. There has been a change in legislation. It used to be every 14 days, and the new proclamation reflects that. And then it'll take place until the termination proclaimed by the Board of Supervisors downgrading that emergency. And in a short time, we'll also have an update from CAL FIRE, and Chief Kyle and his people provide an in-depth one. That concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Chair Modi. And Sheriff Pasenko, thank you. I'll take the opportunity to thank you also for your leadership during the last several days. As you're aware of, I have spent a great number of hours with Sheriff Pasenko, following along with him in his responsibilities as Sheriff of Shasta County, and I can tell you that we have an incredible sheriff. I went with Sheriff Pasenko to the Fire Central Command in Red Bluff. I attended various briefings and updates on the mountain in Shingletown. Watching you and your forces, as well as CAL FIRE and our local Shasta County Fire, I just want to say I'm confident that we have the right people in positions of leadership here to respond to emergency. Sheriff, I know that you're tired. I watched Dave Dean and Under Sheriff Sheila Oshman and all of you folks working long hours. I think you probably got more sleep than, or less sleep than I did, but I feel like I need to catch up with about a day's sleep from the last 3 days. I just want to say thank you and make that a public thanks. I've heard from so many within my district, which is where the fire is located, that want me today to tell you from them that they appreciate you, very much.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Baugh, and it is very much a team effort. I do have my staff here, Captain Dave Dean, who is been the lead person for our incident command there for the law branch. If you have any questions for him for the operations as regards to law enforcement, we've been assisted by CHP, Caltrans, of course, CAL FIRE and their hard work for firefighting, but also we have a liaison directly linked to CAL FIRE to coordinate these. Of course, our Public Works Director, Pat Minturn, and his staff have assisted. We've been assisted by Anderson Police Department and many other agencies, and it is truly a team effort, and that cooperation and that partnership leads these things to go very smooth here in Shasta County.
Supervisor Haas.
Yes, I want to thank you, too. You've kept me well appraised of what's going on out there. And I understand now that we have 2 wooden bridges that are burned up. I just wonder, from time to time, we've replaced Bailey bridges with some good bridges, and I see Pat saying, yes, we probably have some Bailey bridges sitting out here that we can stick in there until we get them permanently built. So everybody's ready for a challenge in this county, aren't we? I mean, we're ready for the challenge, and believe me, we get a challenge ever so often, and this is one of those. Yes. It's a scary time right now, and I don't know when it's going to get over with, but we all need to be praying for rain, because that's probably the only way that we can stop this thing right now. I mean, totally stop it. So, but what a great job all of you and your staff and everyone connected has done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very, very appreciative of my staff under the command of Dave Dean. He has always rises to the occasion and manages these emergencies very well, and we're very fortunate to have well-trained personnel to rise to the occasion for these emergencies that happen all too often here in Shasta County.
Supervisor Kehoe.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Sheriff Posenko, for the benefit of those in the audience this morning, what is the significance of this proclamation?
The significance of the proclamation is we could get some assistance and reimbursement depending on if the governor takes action to also declare this as a regional emergency within Shasta County. And I know that the sheriff of Tehama County has also declared a local emergency, and I would imagine that their board is taking action on this probably today or next week, depending on when they meet. It also provides for some resources to come in and to see about reimbursement for the structures and infrastructures that have been lost, but also perhaps, depending on if it worsens, which I hope that it does not, it also could lead to a federal declaration, but that level of devastation and destruction has not been risen to that level yet.
Thank you.
I would like to move approval.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved and seconded to approve the resolution. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And I think just might be appropriate, you've got a lot of your staff here, you've got a lot of fire staff here, I see Mr. Minturn here, perhaps we could just recognize them for the fine work that they've been doing already. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
We will now adjourn the special board meeting. I will now call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, August 21st, 2012. We will start with an invocation by Pastor Rod Ray Finley from First United Methodist Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Hartman. Pastor.
Thank you. It's an incredible privilege to be here in this place. I appreciate the fact that the board invites people from many faith communities here in this county, and thank you, Chairman Modi. In any way that you pray, would you please join together so that we can be in one, even when we all pray a little different. God, you have dispersed wisdom with such a kindness. We see wisdom in people we know and people we don't, people with strong faith families and people without them, little children and our seniors. We are here seeking a combined wisdom, a shared learning of your Spirit's call for the best of our lives. We offer you ourselves. We offer you those who take places of leadership and employment in this county for the sake of the good of all. These are discussions that all are powerful, and we ask that you give us the grace to balance all the wisdoms that come from your many sources, from the many ways you disperse it, from the many forms and styles of powerful influence we share amongst ourselves, that we might together see your best, find your best, seek your best, and support your best through each other, through others. And we ask in your beautiful name. Amen.
Often when we say the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, we ask to remember and appreciate and honor those that are protecting our freedoms around the world. But today I'd like to ask that we all take a moment and appreciate and honor and respect those here fighting on the home front to protect our lives and our homes. Please join me in the salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, Supervisor Hartman. We will now move to the public comment period, open time. Individual wishing to speak can come forward, and we ask you to give your name. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Comments should be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the board. Pursuant to the Brown Act, action or board discussion cannot be taken on open time matters other than to receive the comments and, if deemed necessary, refer them to the appropriate department for follow-up or to schedule a matter on a subsequent board agenda. I do have several people who want to speak during open time and also a number of people who want to speak to R7. So this will be the open time requests. Our first one is Russ Wade, followed by Dolores Lucero.
Thank you for your time today, and I want to thank all our wonderful civil servants and local government working together. You're doing an outstanding job. It's great when we get up against it, we can handle it. Today, again, I want to address the issue of climate change. It is real. I think it's foolish to stick your head in the sand and don't realize that we contribute to that, all of us. If you want to get a hold of something that's an excellent document, I would encourage you to purchase the latest National Geo. Climate change does help dehydrate our forests. There's no question about it. And of course there's forest management issues, and then the largest private landowner is planting these pitchy little matchstick pine tree forests. Poof! They're just going to go up. I just went by a plantation last Sunday, 22 years old. The trees are about 25 feet tall, and those things are filled with pitch, and they're matchsticks. We do need to address forest management issues on private and public land. Thank you again for all working together, doing a great job, trying to take care of these fires we have. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Dolores Lucero, followed by Terry Raposa.
Good morning. My name is Dolores Lucero. I'm the ex-councilwoman of the city of Shasta Lake. I'm here to say thank you very much for making some difference on our city by actually, and regarding the election, I do think that it helps to come to address some of these issues that have been going on in the city of Shasta Lake here. The the other thing is, the reason I think I see that it's important to also inform not just the people of the city of Shasta Lake, but the people here in the city of Redding also need to know there's a lot of issues going on in the city of Shasta Lake. And the city of Shasta Lake seems to be kind of like a little city they forget about, but they're also breaking a lot of laws. And I do believe a lot of people know there is a lot of corruption. And we need to address those issues. If we don't, it's going to catch up to us. As you know, I'm actually in one of those where I'm caught in the middle for doing the right thing. And I should not be punished for
Ms.
doing the
Lucero,
right thing.
could you address the board, please?
I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
It's just, I just want to make sure that the people are informed that there is some issues that we need to address, and we need to clean up the corruption, and we need to start with the city of Shasta Lake. And from there, I think we need to go on to the next city and anybody else who's broken any laws. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lucero. Terry Raposo, followed by Sherry Beck.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I want to preface this as basically we the people, very quickly. My wife and I are involved with a group called Support Rural America. We support the sheriffs. Our sheriff is involved in that. We've done 7 different symposiums in 6 different counties. Our last one was in Mendocino. It's been great organizing these events and working with our law enforcement officers and making sure there's a real community between them and between the public citizen. In saying that, you get a pulse of what people are thinking and where they're coming from. We spent Tuesday at the Capitol and Wednesday inside the Capitol, and it was interesting, and I just want to mention this quickly because you'll all be very proud of this. When you go to the 3rd floor of the Capitol and you talk to the senators, there's only one person with their door open, and that's Doug LaMalfa. So everybody else's door is shut. The first thing you see is a Betsy Ross flag and a Don't Tread on Me flag, which I thought was pretty interesting. But anyway, I want to let you know that because we're getting a pulse of the people. And right now we know about the fire tax and what that's going to be. We know that's $150 that comes in August. It's retroactive back to 2011. There'll be another bill for those folks for $150 in March, which will be for 2012, and most likely another bill in August of 2013 for $150 for 2013. So within a year, if you have one structure, it's $450. One gentleman in Shingletown, we were up at an event with the sheriff, who was also there, and Mr. Baugh, and there was one gentleman who had 6 pieces of property with 6 structures. So his bill is going to be over $800. So by the time he gets his final bill in 2013, he will have paid $2,400 for this fire tax. Now, the reason I mention that is that word has it that we may want to have a county sales tax. We also may want to have a parcel tax to support the jail. Honestly, if we inflict one more tax on the people, and I say this with being home one day last week, being in the Capitol, being with 600 people on Wednesday, 30 people in a private meeting on Tuesday, with sheriffs from 5 counties on Saturday, with good friends who we stayed with that are ex-highway patrol, that people are very, very, very upset about any more taxes, any more levies. We need to figure out what we're going to do within our means. And the people, I believe, are done with anyone who's going to raise one more tax on them, one more parcel tax, when there's a lot of money being spent where it shouldn't. So that's all I have to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Posum. Sherry Beck, followed by Patricia Heinzen.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the board and staff. My name is Sherry Beck. In line with your emergency declaration, I appreciate that and I support that. Thank you for doing that. As a former member of the Salvation Army Advisory Board, I received an appeal last night for help with food, clothing, animal food, water, whatever you can supply, including monetary donations. They are in desperate need because of the evacuations up there, the people that have been burned out, and all the fires that we have. So I would encourage the board and the staff and the audience to contribute to this Salvation Army effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Patricia Heinzen, followed by Chuck Knight.
Thank you. I wanted to talk briefly about the archiving the meetings of the Board of Supervisors. I'm sure various ones of us put different stock in polls, and polls are worth how they're put together and who they interview. But it's pretty well known that most people don't trust government in general. I would not really want to take a poll of this room to find out who or whether or not they trust the Board of Supervisors. But it would be one thing that could encourage your trust in us is to actually agree to videotape these meetings so that they could be viewed by everybody in the community. For people lucky enough to have a job in today's economy, they're not able to come. And many other of us are involved in so many different things, and we take our precious time to come here and participate in our government. And I'm sure that you would appreciate that. So many can't be here for these meetings, and that's their only access. And being able to view those just twice a week really is not enough. Our city's able to do it, and I would say, frankly, that our Shasta County has more weight and so many more decisions for us than the city. That could be argued, but I would say that. It certainly does affect me more. At the founding of our nation, this wasn't necessary, but in 2012, this is really necessary with people's schedules. So why wouldn't the Board of Supervisors want a complete disclosure and transparency? I understand that the answer is a lack of money in the budget. I would be more than happy. I'm not presuming to know what the budget is. Please don't misunderstand me. I know that very careful consideration is given to that, and that you have severe limitations, and there are great demands on the budget. But this is very, very important. I would think that the Board of Supervisors would want us to work with you and help you, and we need to be able to access these meetings and know what's going on and what's said. And I'm sure that a group of us would be happy to volunteer our time to find that money. And I'm just pleading with you to listen to us, and I would also admonish you to listen to God, abstain from all appearance of evil. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heinzen. Chuck Knight.
Oh, I'm Chuck Knight. Thank you for letting me come up here. I'm not prepared, but I just see the map of the burn. I'm one of the displaced people from Shingletown. We've been out of our house, and we have no idea whether it's still there or not. I believe that we have put up with so much environmental, trying to think of polite words to say, the garbage from the environmentalists. We should, like, who was it, John Paul Jones? He said, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, or somebody said that. I think we should say that to the EPA, to the environmentalists. We need to go up there, clean out the forest, let people go in there and cut the trees. There is something like 200, on the average, 200 tons of wood per acre in the woods. For a healthy forest, you should have 20 tons of combustible stuff per acre. It's kindling. We're seeing what happens when you cater to a few radical minorities on making claims. I think we should use a little common sense. We should say the heck with a lot of this red tape. Do the job that should be done. I'm kind of upset like everybody else. I agree with a lot of the comments. I don't want any more taxes. I can't afford them. Most of us can't. We need to set our priorities in proper, organize our activities in proper priorities. Spend money where it's mostly needed, where it can do the most good, and just clean up our environment, clean up our city hall environment. do away with a lot of these restrictions, let righteous behavior, prevail. And so, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I have a question from Sylvie Milligan.
Thank you. My name's Sylvia Milligan, and I wanted to address to the idea that there could be some taxes raised and also the new fire fee. I retired in 1999. Yeah, I had to stop and think, my God, that's been a long time ago. Anyway, and when I retired, I had my budget figured out. I had been working for 30 years, knowing what my bottom line was, and my husband and I worked 2 and 3 and 4 jobs to reach that goal. When we retired in 99, we felt we had sufficient money to last us the rest of our lives. I sat down the other day and I figured out, with the little bit of raise in my PG&E bill and the little bit of raise in my dish and the raise in the gasoline prices and all of these other things like insurance on my car. And then I put my bottom line income. I've lost 1/3 of my income. And now they're talking about all of these other taxes. And I'm a little concerned because I'm too old to go out and get another job. I cannot rely on my children to support me because I'm still helping them. They're suffering through this economy, and they're all working, and they're all very wise with their money. So I'm concerned about any kind of a raise in tax, whether it's 1/4% from the county, whether it's $150 for a fire fee, or whatever. And one thing that I've kind of come up with in my mind that I think we need to think about is, we have this mass transit train going in. And the people from the South have written letters and made comments that, gee, those of us that live in these rural areas, we get the benefits of this $150, which is a joke. So they think that we should pay it. Well, you know what? I think those people that live in the city should pay for that rapid transit train because they're the ones that are going to use it. I'm never going to use it. So please, think very carefully. The county does a good job of trying to live within its budget. I'm trying to do a good job to live within mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Milligan. I have, we're not finished yet, thank you. Mr. Richard Fighton.
Good morning. My name is Dick Fighton. I live in Shasta County up on Cumberland Drive. One of the things that you have to remember is most of us folks here are retired. We are on what you call fixed income. We don't have jobs where we can go out and raise any kind of salaries or things of this nature. To give you an example, for about 3 years I did not get a raise in my Social Security, and my Navy pension is about a 2% raise each year. My Social Security is pretty decent because I paid maximum Social Security every year I worked. Last year I got a raise. I got an increase in my Social Security, and by the time they took the Medicare portion out, I had a $40 increase. My wife, who makes about 1/3 of the amount my Social Security is, she got a raise, but by the time they took the Social Security out, she lost $40. Our raise last year in Social Security was net sum zero. And that's the way most of the people in your community are living on Social Security, or that's a major portion of their retirement. Yes, I do have a nest egg, but the stock market isn't doing terrific either. So think very seriously about where you're going to get all this money. Pretty soon you're going to put us all on welfare, and then you can pay us back that way.
Thank you, Mr. Fighton. That's all the, please, thank you. That's all the requests I have in advance. Does anybody else wish to speak during the open time? Seeing none, we'll move on to the regular calendar. Verse 1R1, a presentation. Unfortunately, the superintendent from the National Park and Lassen. Darlene Kuntz could not make it, obviously for the reasons with the fire, but we do have, I believe, Chief Kyle is going to speak first.
Good morning, Rick Kyle. I'm the unit chief for the CAL FIRE Shasta Trinity unit. I'm also the Shasta County Fire Warden. I'd like to give you a little update as to some of the fire activity that we've had throughout the county, and then I brought the liaison officer from CAL FIRE Incident Command Team 1, who will give you a brief update as to the latest information from the Ponderosa incident. In Friday night, 8/17 of 2012, a dry lightning storm came through the North State. 900 lightning strikes occurred. 300 of those were within Shasta County, so we took a more significant beating than a lot of our neighbors. Subsequent to that storm, 16 fires were detected in Shasta County on CAL FIRE protection area. They totaled 350 acres. They ranged from a quarter acre to 150 acre fires. All fires were 100% contained with the exception of 2 fires that are close to being contained presently. We have a fire on Snow Mountain near the area of Whitmore that's about 50% contained, and we expect that we'll be able to wrap it up today. We also have a fire on Big Bend Road that's about 5 acres, and we'll expect to wrap that up as well today. Right now, the intent is for the crews to hold those fires they've mopped up through this wind event that starts today and will continue for the next 24 to 36 hours. So you don't see smoke on those fires now, and it is our intent that you don't as we go along. When you consider there are 7 large fires within 100 miles of Reading, and the total acreage of those fires is over 250,000 acres, getting resources to address a dry lightning storm is a miracle in itself. So we were fairly lucky that we were able to include 2 helicopters, 4 hand crews, 26 engines, 8 dozers, and 285 firefighters, along with the 4 lookout towers we had staffed and daily recon flights to see if we could detect new lightning. That doesn't happen without the collective efforts from not only the folks that support CAL FIRE, but the Shasta County fire community. A lot of local government fires and fire agencies provided the staffing needed to suppress those fires. So that's an overview of the Shasta County's lightning complex as it's known, and we anticipate with any kind of luck we'll be able to conclude that effort today. I'd also like to just note, and it's not without some coincidence, that yesterday marked the 20th anniversary of the Fountain Fire, which occurred in 1992. 63,960 acres, 674 structures were destroyed. Thankfully, we're not there presently, but we are being challenged. With that, I'd like to take a moment and introduce to you CAL FIRE Assistant Chief Shauna Jones, who is the liaison officer on CAL FIRE's Incident Management Team 1, and she'll give you an update on the Ponderosa fire.
Good morning. Can you switch me? My name is Shauna Jones. I am the liaison officer for Incident Management Team 1, as Chief Kyle indicated. I'm here to give you just a brief overview of the fire. As you can see by the photo, this is the Ponderosa incident that started on August 18th, about 11:30 in the afternoon. With 900 lightning strikes in Northern California and 300 in the Shasta and Tehama area, we are unfortunate that this fire occurred. Despite our best efforts, this fire was first reported at 5 to 10 acres with initial attack resources of CAL FIRE and adjoining agencies. Despite our best efforts, it got away from us. This is several hours after the fire on the very same day, so I'm sure that all of you could see it. As I was driving here from Southern California, as I pulled off on the 505 from Vallejo, I could see this from that area. So the first several hours, the fire, we estimate that went about 7,000 acres on the first day, which equated to about 9 air miles. So it started in the Manton area, east of Manton, along the Ponderosa Way, and headed towards the Viola area and between Highway 36 and 44. So 9 air miles is really extreme fire behavior for us. It's faster than we can drive, it's faster than we can run, and it was we just couldn't manage to take care of it. We had mandatory evacuations with the help of the sheriff's offices of both Tehama and Shasta County. It was a tremendous fight, and we could not have done it without their assistance. Some of the areas that we covered include east of Shingletown proper to Viola on Highway 44, the Rock Creek, Long Hay Flat, Manton area, and Battle Creek area were all evacuated, as well as some communities above 44. We have the Red Cross shelter is open here in Reading and Big League Dreams. In the very beginning, we had 2 shelters open on the Mountain School and the Junction School in Palisadros. Because of the fire threat, we determined that we needed to move those folks into a more safe location. The Red Cross shelter at the Big League Dreams was able to accommodate much more for the surge capacity that we were expecting. Currently today, we have 62 in the shelter, and both Shasta and Tehama residents are there. The current situation has been covered earlier. However, we're about 20,000 acres. That's 30 square miles. We're about 35% contained on the fire. We are reporting this morning 7 structures, but as you heard from the sheriff, we actually have more. In the center of the fire, we were not able to get in there to assess the complete number of the damage, but we know that there's more, and we're trying our best to get that information out to the public, and we should have better numbers for everyone this afternoon and as the fire winds down. So we had 300 structures that were evacuated and protected, over 3,000 homes threatened, 28, which included 28 commercial properties and over 300 other outbuildings, trailers, etc. A couple things to note. The Rock Creek, there was 2 bridges, as the chief mentioned. At the 5 and 8 mile marker, those 2 wooden bridges have been destroyed. Our fire is approximately 2 miles west of the Lassen National Forest. And like I said last night, we were able to get into the area previously inaccessible, and we should have a better number of structures that were lost today. The mountain fire, or the mountain flume, was also compromised as part of this. Current situation, the fire is burning both in Tehama and Shasta County, and I will show you a map here shortly and give you kind of a visual presentation of the areas affected today. Dry conditions, difficult terrain, and ranging from all sorts of vegetation types, ranging from timber to grassland, has given the firefighters a tremendous challenge based on limited resources. We are competing for other resources throughout the state because of the number of fires, the large fires that we have. Fire crews continue to build line around the incident today. They're working very hard to make that effort to abate the issues and hopefully get residents back into their homes quickly. The top priority continues to be protecting the many homes within the fire's perimeter and all the nearby communities. We applied for what's called a FMAG grant for the federal monies, and which provides us 75% of on the dollar, and that money can return back to state and local agencies for the reimbursement of fire suppression efforts. That has been approved, and so the financial folks are going to be working on that to help bring that money back to the community. Current situation today. On the fire, we have approximately 223 fire engines, 38 fire crews. Those are the hand crews that are out there. Bulldozers, air tankers, and that includes the VLAT, which is the very large air tanker, and that's a DC-10. I have a photo at the end I'll show you. Including helicopters and just under 19,000 personnel on the fire line and in the camp supporting the incident. That includes National Guard. National Guard's been very helpful to us in allowing us some support from the air in the firefighting efforts. Our incident management team, CAL FIRE incident management team, our objective obviously is to public safety and to the firefighters fighting the crew. We want to keep you all informed and the public, and we have, I know that listening to the public comments, there's some frustration. The Fire Information Center number is up and running. So if you do have any information, the phone number is 530-225-2510. And if you call that number, the folks there will give you as much information as they can regarding the incident and anything regarding evacuations, road closures, and the like. We could not have done where we are today, and again, I'll show you on the map where we're at with the efforts. Our cooperating agencies, including the Sheriff's Office and countless others, CHP, Caltrans, Department of Corrections, Sierra Pacific Industries, PG&E, BLM, and to name 1,000 more, have not. It's been a tremendous fight, and we cannot do this alone. This is a team effort, and we greatly appreciate that. We have been sharing information with Alaska National Forest and the park. The Reading incident and the Ponderosa incident have been in contact every day, sharing our incident action plan for the day and setting up trigger points should the fire move east towards their fire for protections of homes. We have a great communication with them, and that communication continues. So short term, today, the fire activity continues. We continue to make progress on extinguishment of the fire. We have established some solid lines around the majority of the fire, mop up on all hot spots. We're scouting out ahead with the weather conditions and the extreme fire behavior that we've received. To explain it a little bit, if you have an ember that moves ahead of the fire, it's almost 100% ignition, which means that for sure if it lands in a receptive fuel bed, it will catch fire. So we've had some very challenging efforts to ensure that when the wind blows, we're there to catch any of those embers. We have been in discussion with reopening the road closures. We're working very closely with the Shasta and Tehama Sheriff on those road closures. We are in discussion. We're looking at speaking with operations this morning, 24 to 48 hours on those efforts, just based on the fire conditions at hand. A repopulation effort is also underway in conjunction with the road openings, and as more information is available, we will provide that, and it will be made available at both on the Fire Information Center. We also have PIOs at the Red Cross shelter and the Shingle Springs or Shingletown store. So there is a CAL FIRE presence there with PIO information. We have been very challenged. I know that the citizens are concerned about what they perceive as lack of information. Sharing of resources throughout the state has made it very difficult to get resources assigned. So we're doing our best efforts. So if you have any needs, we really, that fire information line is great, but we will have a better presence in that area. Today's activities, the weather is, we were expecting red flag warnings today. However, that has not surfaced, which is a good thing for us. It will be a little bit windier this afternoon, and we are hoping to mitigate the issues. This is a photo of the DC-10, and at that point, I am done and ready for questions. Oh, actually, I'm not. Can I switch over? I know it kind of looks like a blob, but let me point out a few things on the map. This is Highway 36 along the bottom, and this is Highway 44 along the top. The fire started somewhere around Battle Creek in this area and moved 9 linear miles during the first day. We have road closures. We have road closures at Shingletown all the way to Viola. And we are in the fire efforts along here. We have some, Caltrans is assisting us in our piloted car along the area. The fire it's burnt. This is the Shasta-Tehama County line, and so we have both resources, about equal split for acreage burn in both counties. Today, the area along the Manton, up in the Shingletown area and along the top we have good fire line around it. However, the We are trying to ensure that public safety is taken care of, so we have not allowed anyone back in there. We need to do a little more work in there before we can let any citizens back in. Along the eastern side, here is where the fire line is still very active, and we're working on getting efforts in there to mitigate the fire. In Tehama County, along the Battle Creek, this is giving us a lot of challenges with firefighters, and we're putting a lot of resources and dedication into that area today. So 35% contained. This fire started on Saturday. We're doing very well in trying to mitigate and put this fire under control and containment. And with that, if there's any questions.
Questions of CAL FIRE staff, Supervisor Baugh?
Thank you, Chair Modi. Can you uncover that map again?
I'm sorry?
Wanted to just point something out on there. Folks, I do consider it nothing short of miraculous as you look on that map with the fire having charged forward in the span of just a few hours, that 9 miles to have stopped immediately before. What is north of that is the Sites Plateau, Pagan Pines area, Long Hay Flat Road, about 200 to 300 homes in that area. To have it stop there is miraculous, and it is also a credit to the efforts of the many crews and volunteers and that whole list that you saw there. And there's where it stayed basically for the last 24 hours, maybe even longer than that. It's moving toward the east, I know, and on the south end, but greatly appreciate the fact that it stopped there prior to literally burning through a couple of hundred homes. That's how close it is. I first met you, Ms. Jones, in Red Bluff at Incident Command, and what I saw there, and I just wanted to say it publicly, was, now I have to tell you, I was the only person without a uniform on, and so it was a little bit intimidating with the law enforcement and the fire personnel there, but what was very positive is that here you had resources representing every part of your effort, bringing together law enforcement and fire personnel, and it was extremely impressive to know from the position that Chief Kyle had told me earlier in the day that we went from 0 resources available because of the massive amount of fires in the region to almost, again, a miraculous number of resources within just a few hours that became available because people answered to the call that was necessary. It was very impressive, and I just can't emphasize that enough, to see a room full of people managing their resources and the assets available, on top of it already completely informed. And I watched as you divided the fire into sections and manned it and explained where the crews were and how the communications worked. And that number, the 225-2510, was available immediately for information that was given out, and people like me kept giving it out again in the local media and so forth. I just can't emphasize enough, I appreciate the strong, positive, organized, knowledgeable reaction. I do have a question perhaps for Chief Kyle, and then a thought. Maybe I'll start on the thought for Ms. Jones first. I do appreciate your efforts on communication, and as we've spoken about that subject, I would say maximum effort. Anything you can do, continue to do to expand those efforts. People need to know, Mr. Knight, when you were up here, not knowing whether or not the fire had come into your home area, the best thing we can do for folks that are out of their homes and they're worried and they're concerned and it's very emotional, it's very personal, is to provide the maximum amount of information. So thank you for continuing to ramp that up. I do know that we had a public information officer at the Shingletown store yesterday. Mr. Bruno is a friend and familiar to most people in Shasta County, and I'm grateful that he was there. Anything we can do to add to that. Mr. Chief Kyle, again, I want to say thank you. I know I said it once already, but I saw your efforts in Red Bluff at the Incident Command, your continued efforts, your multiple calls to me. I know I'm just one of 5 board members. I heard Mr. Haas say the same. I'm sure that you've spoken with the rest of them. It was great to also, I'll tell you, Mr. Lees, to have you on board on Sundays. We spent the day together tracking down everything we could, from briefings to actual on-the-ground reviews and contacts and phone numbers, so that I could continue to answer questions. My phone number I give out publicly, my cell, and it did not stop ringing in the last 3 days. People know they can call me, and I've answered and directed as many questions to you as possible and answered as many as you'd already informed me of. So thank you. I appreciate your leadership. In your presentation, Chief Kyle, you had a cautious note of optimism. Can you expand on that a little more? I know we heard it follow through on that in terms of what's happening today, but it sounds as if we see 35%, we see the lines and the guard there. Are we winding this down? Can we say that yet?
No, I don't believe we can say that. I will tell you that when it comes to the North State and fire activity, the Ponderosa incident currently is the #1 priority for resource allocation. That's way better than being in the bottom of that kind of list, and we're doing fortunate there. The team is well engaged. I'm pleased with how they're responding to the community and to the intent of the fire, and I think that there comes a power curve where you're trying to accelerate and get in front of this thing, and we're rapidly getting there. We've got a couple significant weather events that we have to beat, but optimism, I'm not quite there yet, but we're getting close. Also, I'd like to thank your participation in helping inform the constituents there up on the Shingletown Ridge. That was of immense help. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions of staff at this time? No? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Thank you, Chief. Next, we're going to hear from either the Shasta National Forest Supervisor, Sharon Haywood, and then I think after that, from the U.S. Forest Service Shasta Lake District Ranger Christy Katina.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board, Chairman Modi, members of the board. My name is Sharon Haywood, and I'm the Forest Supervisor on the Shasta Trinity National Forest. What I would like to do is make a few comments, give you an update on our fires, and let you know some things that we have in place that we expect through the remainder of the season, and be open to any questions that you might have. I first wanted to recognize the loss and anxiety and concerns of our local communities. It touches all of us. We have employees who live throughout the county and in other counties, and this is a very serious fire season brought home locally, and people are being displaced, concerned they will be displaced, unaware of whether they have a home to go back to, and this is just affecting all of us, and we have a lot of concern for our communities. As pretty much all the speakers have mentioned, firefighting is a team effort. It's about partnerships, and it's about partnerships with local governments, county governments, state governments, multiple federal agencies, Red Cross, animal shelters, etc. And so together we must approach all of these issues. It's not about a single entity being able to take on fire in this county or in this ecosystem, fire-dependent ecosystem that we live in. I would address two specific fires that we have had. When I was asked to come to do an update last week, I thought, well, we will just discuss the Salt Creek and move on, but that's not the case. So we have the Salt Creek fire, which is pretty much behind us, and we have the Bagley fire, which I will talk more about. The Salt Creek fire burned about 800 acres of public lands and about 125 or so of private lands, and that was all in Supervisor Hartman's district. It did shut down Interstate 5. It was a little bit on the west side of 5 and primarily on the east side of 5 in the Gilman Road area. With respect to Bagley, Chief Kyle has alluded to the huge number of lightning strikes that we got this past weekend. And on Saturday, we recognized that we had about 6 fires on the Shasta Trinity. We take a lot of pride in our initial attack, and that is we have about a 98% success rate of initial attack. We're wildland firefighters. Certainly, we have urban interface, and we had that in the Salt Creek fire. But basically, we are able to get on top of, control, and put out about 98% of our fires. But the other 2% give us, obviously, a number of issues. So with respect to the Bagley fire, it is currently, excuse me, the result of at least 2 fires and possibly 2 fires in a spot. And the fire is about 6 miles west, a little southwest of Big Bend. It's in very remote, inaccessible country. It is primarily in public lands and private lands, with the private land being owned almost totally, at least totally as far as I know, by Sierra Pacific Industries. And we are working with them on a daily and many times a day basis because, of course, they're concerned about their lands and their timber values. Right now, we have an estimate of the size of the fire. Thank you. Thank you. Right now, we have an estimate of the size of the fire, and that is that it is slightly more than 3,000 acres. But in this initial stage of firefighting suppression, our intelligence is not always totally accurate. We've had a lot of smoke. We're not able to get good pictures or intelligence. So yesterday, we thought it was 1,000 acres. Today, as a result of some intelligence, we think it might be a little more than 3,000 acres. But that figure will likely change. We have a team. We call it a Type 2 team, which is the second most complex team, Type 1 being the most complex team. We have a Type 2 team that took that fire over this morning at 0600 hours. Now, prior to taking over the fire, we had a lot of interaction with their operations people, their logistics people, et cetera. So they don't just wait till the clock comes to 0600 and take over the fire. There's a lot of integration with our people, our Type 3 team people that were already addressing the fire. One of the things I would say about communication is, of course, we have public information officers that are going to be available to communicate with people who have questions about the fire. And then there is a website that pretty much all national incidents use, and the easiest way to get to that website is to Google it, and it is called InsaWeb. So that's short for Incident Website, and the name of it is INCI, the first 4 letters of Incident Web. So it's INCIWEB. And if you Google that, that will take you right away to a site where you can choose current fires, California fires only. And if you just go there and take a look, you will see that there are a lot of fires, very large fires nationally. And of course, they are all competing for resources. And unlike the great statement that CAL FIRE was just able to make about being number 1 as the Ponderosa incident, we can, in fact, unfortunately, make the statement that we really are at the bottom of the list for resources. Now, there are many reasons for that. One of them is we do not have any structures threatened right now. We do not have real traffic there because it's remote. It's 6 miles this side of Big Bend. So we are at the bottom, but my best estimate right now, the number of people that we have addressing this fire is 300 people. So that's a pretty good estimate. But that InsaWeb will be pretty current. Usually we try to keep it accurate and current within a couple of hours. So if folks will go to that website, they will see the size of the fire. We will have maps, we will have pictures, and we will have data. What do we have in place? One of the things that we did the latter part of last week, because we were seeing at least all signs that this season is going to be a pretty serious season, because this being just the middle of August, we still are relatively early in our fire season. So we ordered up a national prevention team. That means that they are focusing on an information campaign that will talk about ways to prevent fires, ways for people to be aware of what they can do that will reduce the likelihood of causing a fire. On the Shasta Trinity National Forest, we have about 50% of our fires are human-caused. A substantial percentage of those human-caused fires are caused by vehicles. And one of the campaigns that this prevention team is working on as a result of one of our employees having this idea and putting in for a small grant is called One Less Spark, One Less Wildfire. And I brought a bunch of these so that the supervisors can have a copy, and then there are copies available for people. This is a real partnership effort with a lot of agencies engaged. We've had some public safety announcements that connect to this. We've had a little media event out at one of the rest stops that was well attended and got air in the local press. But it's just a simple thing about what people can do, all of us can do, to help reduce the likelihood of causing a wildfire. I would like to mention a couple of more things, and that is that we are a full suppression forest. We are attempting to exceed our 98% of success rate with suppressing fires. And through the remainder of the season, we will be carefully garnering our resources. We bring in engines to back up engines that have to be moved to other places. As you might imagine, with all of the fires going on nationally, we have already had a lot of our resources off forest. We have engines that are away, we have water tenders that are away, dozers that are away, people that are away. But we are doing the best we can, and I think so far we're doing a good job. Salt Creek was a real success for the teamship, the partnership, the communication with people. The Fire Safe Council was just outstanding with that. The various lakehead communities were just very involved and engaged, and it was sort of an example of how things could be when everybody was working together, and I always think there's a little bit of luck engaged in most things. One other thing I would mention to you is after all significant fires of any size, we do what is called an after-action review. That is, we are looking to learn from what we did, best practices, identify those, let's keep doing those, let's spread the word on the best practices, and those things that we could have changed, that we could have done better, let's look at ways to change and improve those things. And so we had a pretty large after-action review after Salt Creek. We certainly will have one after Bagley. I think that when you're in the moment with fire, you're looking forward. You don't know exactly what the weather is going to be. You don't exactly know what's going to happen. And later, you can, after action review, you look back at what happened. So it's always easy to look back and critique what was done, whether, it's some members of our community who wish we had done things faster, better, et cetera. But we do after action reviews after all of our significant fires. And I would like to, before taking any questions you might have, just tell you what the Chief of the Forest Service has defined as success. And I'll just give you one, it's just one sentence, but it's something that I communicate to the teams as they come in, and we talk about it as a leadership team. And that is, with respect to firefighting, success is defined as safely achieving our objectives, so we always identify clear, specific objectives for a fire, with the least firefighter exposure. You know, we've had a number of fatalities this year, a number of injuries on the Salt Creek. We did not have any really significant injuries. One of the things that's always an issue for us is poison oak. So with the least firefighter exposure necessary, while enhancing stakeholder support for our management. And what that means is communicating with people, building relationships, and focusing more and more on that teamwork and partnerships. And I would be happy to take any questions that you have. I would tell you that I have with me the ranger on the National Recreation Area, Christy Catini, and I have our acting deputy fire management officer, Ben Newbern, and both of them are very involved in the Bagley fire. So if there's some specifics or details that I don't know, I know that we'll be able to provide them or we'll get the answers for you.
Thank you, Ms. Haywood. Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Chair Modi. Ms. Haywood, thank you for taking the time to be here. We appreciate your responding to the board request initiated by Supervisor Hawes, and we're glad that you're here. I know the entire board wanted to hear from you as well. I have two areas, actually, and thank you, and I will acknowledge in advance the efforts, and thank you for the efforts you've made locally, you and your team. We do appreciate that. Two areas I'd like to discuss with you. One is you handed this out to us, and you discussed briefly ways to prevent fires. What I'd like to discuss are ways to prevent the spread of fires. The people and the involvement and the incidents, the things that spark the fires, are one part of the occasion of the equation. However, the other part is once a fire is started, how do we keep it from spreading needlessly? Part of that equation, you promote defensible space around homes, but yet in the practice, from a practical perspective, that's not well applied to the forest itself. The undergrowth that promotes fires that push up into the crowns and then rage with very little effort could be reduced greatly by increased and a change in your own forest management practices. Could you address that thought?
Yes. We are always focused on fuels management. I interpret your point to mean we could do more, and I most certainly agree that we could do more. We are integrating our fuels reduction in pretty much every project that we do that it's feasible to do. So as we have a timber sale program or as we have clearing of trails, etc., we are always focused on fuels. The Shasta Trinity is about 2.1 million acres, and that's a lot of acres. Some of that is wilderness, not quite 500,000 acres of it is wilderness, so we're not obviously going to be working in that. We do have to focus because I use the example of if you have $1, you have to figure out where you're going to spend it, and you cannot do everything at the same time. So we do work with the fire safe councils to focus on areas of priority, and this year come the end of September, we will have reduced, I would say in terms of acres, because we measure fuel reduction in terms of acres, about 11,000 acres. Now, 11,000 acres compared to 2.2 million, of course, is a very small figure, but we are working together with homeowners, with people who are in wildland-urban interface, and we are doing as much fuel reduction as our allocated dollars leveraged with partner dollars as we are able to do on the ground. I would be happy to address any more specific questions that you have.
I'd like to follow along that just a little bit more. As I said on the Fire Safe Council, Shasta County Fire Safe Council, as does Supervisor Hartman, and both Supervisor Hawes and I sat on the Resource Advisory Council. So we're familiar with your work and the efforts on fuel breaks, and that is appreciated. But we both know that with the increasing density of the forest, that you're literally perhaps killing it with your protection of the forest. As it increases in density, it makes it impossible to put out a fire. Simple changes, and I know that you're not responsible for national policy, but it has to start somewhere. The discussion may as well start in fire-ravaged Shasta County. We need to change national forest management practices to the point where we can do more than the small amount of logging that we see. It means nothing in perspective to the growth and the need to actually thin down that forest. It would become a healthier forest. Actually, you might produce a few dollars and we could assure citizens that their houses are not going to be sacrificed because of a protectionist policy that literally you've created a big barbecue waiting for a match. And we've seen what happens when the lightning supplies that match here. It needs to stop here. We need to enter that discussion and not be afraid of it, find ways to work forward. I'm going to move on to another area, post-burn management. It was disheartening after the Trinity fires to see the logs rotting on the ground. What an incredible waste. I just can't understand a philosophy of management that would encourage that, encourage the infestation to come in, encourage the rest of the forest to go downhill when an immediate action could have allowed a simple competitive logging bid, go in there, pull it out, clean up the forest, make everybody happy. What do you have to say about that?
In all seriousness, there are no actions with land management that make everybody happy.
I agree.
There are pretty much no immediate actions that can be taken on public lands. Since both you and Supervisor Hart work in the RAC, I think you know and understand maybe some of our process, which is put in place nationally. I think you know some of the court cases that Supervisor Hartman and Baugh may have been exposed to as a part of the Resource Advisory Committee. So all the public, the American public that has some say in policy, does not support immediate action in many cases. After the 2008 fires, we did one emergency type timber sale, and it took us almost a year. As a matter of fact, it might actually have been slightly more than a year. So I strongly encourage you and the board as elected officials to do all that you can to support your constituents' desire. But I am generally an implementer of policy. I certainly critique our policy at times, but I am not able to change the law or generally to change national policy.
Thank you. Supervisor Hawes.
Do you know a gentleman by the name of Tim Holland? I think I have his last name right. He works for McClintock, and he was actually working for Herger up at the incident report Saturday night at Old Station. And it came up. Darlene was there, by the way. She did a great job. It came up, the exclusion word came out, you know. I think we're at that point in Northern California where we need to get something like that so we can jump in and harvest some of this timber before it deteriorates. He was talking about some legislation that might get that done. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not. Based on what you say, I'm assuming it's somewhat similar to the, more than 10 years ago, I guess, salvage rider.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's overdue, and so maybe there is a chance. We'll see. I know they're pushing for it, so we'll see. We need to push our congressman because that's the way we get it done.
Absolutely.
But thank you for the report. It's very well done.
Other questions of Ms. Haywood? Supervisor Kehoe?
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Ms. Haywood, thank you for your presentation this morning. You mentioned after-action reviews. I assume there are minutes of those reviews. Are they available to the public?
We have taken some notes of most after-action reviews. Sometimes there's as simple as us getting in a circle and spending an hour going around and identifying changes, best management practices, et cetera, and we would not have notes of those. But of the Salt Creek after-action review, we view this as a multi-staged after-action review. So far, we've only been able, because of dates and the press of business with people suppressing fires other places, we've only been able to do a forest part of that. We intend to include externals as the next step of that, and we certainly can make that available after that.
Thank you. Second question. After let's use the Bagley fire as an example. After you put out the Bagley fire, then what happens?
We will have burned area emergency repair. So that means we will be looking at the condition of the watershed to see what's happened to the soils, to see whether or not there's any flooding, erosion, etc. We will pull back generally some material onto any dozer lines. We will, in other words, try to repair at a minimal level those things that were created on the ground or left on the ground as a result of the suppression. So that will be one of the things that occurs. We will then engage in discussions around what I call an assessment. So that looks at the severity of the burn, that looks at the land allocations that were involved, that generally involves conversation and communication with any private landowners, in this case Sierra Pacific Industries. So that is what will occur. And depending upon the results of that assessment, individual projects can be, I would say, born out of that assessment. So it might be a trails project, it might be another fuel reduction project, it might be a road closure project or a trail closure project because work needs to be done on it. It could be a myriad of things depending upon what the fire does.
Thank you.
I would add that with the Salt Creek fire, a lot of people don't like to think of this, certainly not while the fire is going on, but once the fire is gone, we were left with a pretty good burn in a number of places. What I mean by that is fuels were reduced, some of the floor litter, some of the ground fuels. It was not a very hot fire in many places, so it created a kind of mosaic, and that, in fact, is a form of fuel reduction. It's not, it's unplanned. It sometimes burns down things you don't want to have burned down, so it's not the best way to do it, but it's not generally all bad in terms of a fuel's perspective.
Supervisor Hawes.
What percentage, or do you have an idea of your forest is 200 tons plus in fuel? I think it's pretty prevalent out there in certain places.
Yeah, we have Trinity County Supervisor Roger Yeagle takes me out in many places to show me some of these. Some of those areas are on burned areas where we have had burns and not been able to do any additional projects on those areas. Any figure I give you will be wrong, that I know. Suffice it to say that there are significant acres on the forest that have more fuel loading than we would want ideally under any kind of management regime.
So it's a long process to get it reduced.
It is a long process. And see, we are blessed with some very productive lands. So we have a lot of growth. And so where fires burn hot, for example, depending upon where they are, brush can be a real issue when it comes back, and you know that as well or better than we do. So that's another fuels issue that you have to get on top of. If you think of gardening 2.2 million acres minus quite a number of acres, including wilderness, et cetera, it's quite the task.
Other questions? Then I'll just finish with a comment. Ms. Hayward, first of all, thank you for taking the time to come down. I know you've got a lot of other things to do today. I would just like to piggyback a little bit to what Supervisor Ball said, and this is not directed to you because, as you mentioned, you're not responsible for National Forest Service policy. But I have been asked to represent Shasta County, actually all of Northern California, to attend a national coalition meeting. It's going to meet in September to deal with some forest issues, particularly with, I think, the timber harvesting and timber thinning of our forests to help prevent these kind of fires, but also to improve our watersheds, and probably more importantly, to change it from a situation where now we're always asking for a handout from the federal government for our secure rural schools funding, because now we don't have any timber harvesting, so they give us a handout, to changing it back to something where we actually are more productive, take some timber out of our forest, put people back to work, have a product, and then from that you get your taxes that help support our counties and our schools. And I think it kind of, that's what part of what Supervisor Ball was alluding to as well. And I think it also goes to some of the comments stated about the fire tax. Wouldn't it be nice that instead of just charging you extra $150 to fight the fires, if we actually were to go out with commercial timber harvesting and thin our forest so we would have less catastrophic fires, and at the same time actually put people to work and make money off the forest versus just taxing the people. So hopefully we'll be successful. But the focus of this group is going to be, as kind of as you alluded to, actually, is I think presenting something to, and this against a national group, to Congress to look to change some of the rules and policies and laws so that we can go back in and maybe be more productive in our forest and try to address these issues and perhaps get the monkey off the locals' Forest Services' backs a little bit. So thank you. Supervisor Haas?
Yeah, while we're in this mode, we need to contact Herger's office and McClintock and start talking about this exclusion, because the time is counting right now. You know, these trees are dead, so
Yeah, actually,
I'd like to see them harvested before
I'm
they
attending a
spoil.
meeting tomorrow in Sacramento with those individuals on a related issue, but I'm sure that will be coming up as well.
With your permission, may I ask Christy and Ben if I gave you any bad information that needs to be corrected? Is there anything you all want to add? Okay, thank you so much.
We're not stepping up there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again for coming.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
I can't hear you.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. The following consent calendar items. Oh, I'm sorry.
Going to run Mark out of here.
I just thought, you had waited long enough, you'd just go home. I see that. We're going to move to R2, presentation and receive a report from the Shasta County Economic Development Corporation President, Mark LaSalle's. Mark, thank you. Sorry to miss you.
Hopefully we can get this to go over right. Here we are. Did I delete all your screens?
No, we need to mirror it.
Need to mirror it? I'm sorry. While this is being corrected, I'm just going to add my part as another citizen who's lived here for 30 years and enjoyed the bounty of this area. But every 3 or 4 years we get these fires, and it's part of living here. And as one who came through the Jones fire and was evacuated and went back out on Sunday morning and walked onto a 10-acre property that was absolutely obliterated to the ground, and fences gone, outbuildings gone, just a few smoldering trees sitting out in front, to look down the middle of it and see your home standing there untouched, and know that firemen and various other support services have been working all night while you were gone. As much as I hear this morning, it makes me proud to be a part of it and be proud to be living here, and we support you and thank you for all the work that you're doing. We're up on the screen. I'm going to be brief this morning. I spoke with Larry last week and he generously gave me some extra time, but due to the part of it this morning, I'm going to kind of go through it very quickly and see if I can shorten that for you, and I apologize for that. I had 3 people with me. Mike Pohlmeyer was our vice chair of the board, had another appointment. Jeff Avery, who is Supervisor Kehoe's appointment, and left this morning is Ken Burns, who is Supervisor Hoare's appointment with us this morning. And he canceled the day knowing what was coming on and knowing that Supervisor Hoare's would not let him out with us. Very briefly, I'm going to skip the first one, talking about our job makeup and the economy, but I am going to talk very briefly about a competitive review of our region, realities and changing business world that we're dealing with, the EDC's changes to that, and our 10 years goal as requested last year by Supervisor Kehoe when I was standing in front of you. Just going to skip through this first part. Basically, the EDC's role has always been to go out and recruit companies to this area. It's always been the perceived role of the EDC. Unfortunately, our ability to do this has changed dramatically. And I don't mean to be negative for a while, stay with me, because there's some good signs in this as well. But previously, we used to go out and compete based on location, have a central west coast, land costs, utility costs, infrastructure, workforce development, and incentives. Unfortunately, with our flattening economy, our ability to compete in these areas today has been taken away or greatly diminished. When we go down to LA today, they have cheap land. Their building costs have dropped, their labor costs have dropped. So our ability to compete has lessened our position. At the same time, industry today is looking for more mobility, their ability to move people in and out of the area. Technology access, higher education requirements of employees, global connectivity, clustering of employment types. These are all new things that have come on in the last 4 or 5 years that have affected our ability to compete. These are just a few things that we'd like to have in the area to be competitive. An airport that goes 3 directions and has multiple flights so we can have mobility. A UC campus or a lab that gives us access to technology that industry needs today. A relationship between a med hub and research. We have one of the largest med hubs for a community of this size in the country, but absolutely no connection to your research. A level of education, our workforce, that meets today's employers. Technology today, industry today is about technology, and we need a workforce that's trained in that direction. An incentive to attract companies, a regional reputation, a number of things. You look at this and say, well, it'd be nice to have, but who has them? These are all communities that have them that we compete with every day. And unfortunately with this, we're going backwards in our ability to compete. We're less competitive than we were 5 years ago, and unfortunately there's companies that are moving ahead of us. This is the realities of what we deal with. However, on top of that, there's 80%, it's anticipated that 80% of new jobs will be created locally. So we're looking to rechange our structure and how we're going about doing our business. 80% of new jobs are in companies that don't exist. In fact, a lot of the old companies are downsizing. With a cycle in the economy, there's a lot of startups coming in, new jobs being created. We're looking to restructure the direction we go to focus on that part of it. The realities of recruiting large employers are traditionally you get 2 or 3 in a decade. We have Stillwater Business Park out there. It will attract large companies, but it's going to take time to come. As we read in the Record Searchlight on Sunday of another community that waited 10 years, but when it came, it was a game changer. We will hope those come, but they're not going to be coming on an annual basis. Our incentives are not competitive. We know that. Redevelopment is gone. We're aware of that. And the last 3 things on there you've already covered. So basically, we're changing the direction that we're doing business. We're no longer going out and chasing companies around the country. We're now focusing on building our own technology, building a market message that we take out into the world. We're no longer doing trade shows, which was a large part of our budget. We're focusing on getting people into town. We have 2 coming in. One was scheduled for next week, and it's an investor from Silicon Valley who has started 4 companies in Silicon Valley. We're looking to try and get components of those companies to come up. We're flying this individual to town next week to look at what we can offer. We're starting an incubation center. We're looking to put them in there. We have a package and a proposal to bring them in. We're changing the structuring of what we're doing. We're bringing a Chinese delegation in at the beginning of October to sit down with our local business people and basically the same type of products, the same type of industries that we have here, starting to build more of a connection on the ground in Shasta County rather than running around the country as we've done in the past. We're looking to change our competition, getting away from labor, utility, land, as I mentioned, back to our natural resources. We talk about this morning, we've been having a lot of discussion about natural resources. Again, we have a lot of companies that are here doing things that use our natural resources. We build paddle boards, we build water skis, we build climbing harness. We have a helicopter company that came here last year to build drone helicopters that are all here because they can develop, test, and market their product using something in Shasta County that doesn't exist anywhere else. Some of those opportunities are in aviation, as we talked about. We have a tremendous facility for training pilots at the airport with a huge demand ahead of them. Again, we have more air days, more airspace than almost any other community in the country. So we're shifting our focus of the type of companies we're going after to those that fit the kind of resources more directly to the first resources we have here. Recreational manufacturing I've covered, another great one for the area. Technology development. We have a large group of youth that have come in the 20 to 30 age group that are bringing a lot of technology expertise with them. They need opportunities to go out and start companies, and I'm going to share with you in a moment a little bit of what's been going on with them in the last 2 years. Two things we need to change. One is we need to move away from our industrial mentality. The EDC has always been seen as a kind of a smokestack kind of industry. We're moving away from that. We're moving into an environment, or excuse me, a entrepreneurial type environment. Looking to bring people to town that want to start companies, put the resources around them, and let them build those companies here. The same people have been going to Silicon Valley, the same people that are going to Austin, Texas, get them to come to Shasta County, California, put the resources around, and let them build those companies here and create the jobs from within. And I'm going to show you a little bit later, in just a moment, what that can produce. The last one I want to share with you in terms of major change is we're moving away from being a regional center. We've got to become global in the way we see ourselves. In service and retail, we're regional. Manufacturing is global. We have manufacturers in Shasta County that sell their products in Russia, China, South America, Australasia, the Middle East, all over the world for products that are made right here in Shasta County. And some of them are doing very, very well right now in this economy. Very briefly, we did a couple of Game Changers events this year. We took this message out, we shared it with the community. In brief, the community came back and said they liked it. We brought in speakers from outside. I know a couple of you were there that took communities that had gone through changes like this. And this is a 15, 20-year change that we've got ahead of us. But if we're going to remain, or we're going to rebuild our industrial-based economy, we've got to start down this road now because the old economy's gone. Basically, we've changed our vision statement. We're looking to build a globally connected, innovative region for manufacturing and technology that provides strong competitive advantages for business and attracts entrepreneurs. That's the new world of manufacturing that we live in. It sounds highfalutin, it sounds way away from where we've been before, but this is where the stronger economies are building manufacturing today. And until we grasp that and start building the infrastructure to do that, which we're taking on as EDC, we're going to be receiving the same as we always have. So this is just a group of companies in the last 3 years that are all local companies that are out there. Echo Research, when I first started, was one individual, and he was getting ready to go to LA because he had been told by his mentors, don't do it in Shasta County, move to LA, you've got the facilities there. We got around him. Today, he has 30 employees. He had a group of Russians in last week. He's doing business with China, doing business with Australasia. He's looking to take over and be one of the major players in this area, and he's a kid that went through Shasta High School and has come back and is building this product right here. This is in 2 years. Sea Breacher is another group of a couple of guys. They were actually in the city of Reading. They just moved into the county. Now I have 30 employees selling their product in the Middle East, Australasia, all over the world. They're selling their product. Hill Group, I'm just going to touch on a couple of these. Hill Group, we bought to town beginning of this year. They build drone helicopters. They have 2 PhDs on staff, 2 aeronautical engineers on staff. One, a kid that went to Foothill High School, went on to Shasta College, went to UC Davis, and his first job out of UC Davis is back here in Shasta County. These are the kind of companies we need. These are the kind of jobs we've got to really start creating if we're going to change our industrial economy. And I can go on down. Shasta Crystal, just a little company tucked down in Anderson, 4 PhDs on staff. And the salaries that go with them and what the effect of that is, and you can look down the list. These are just in the last 2 or 3 years in this area. Major changes, and they're all local companies that have started right here. Basically, our 10-year goal, right now, we're responsible for $8.8 billion of the economy. We represent 3.5% of the jobs. When I came to town, we were close to 15% of the jobs. That's the big shift or the loss that we've made by losing this sector. We're looking to double that over the next 10 years. In doing that, we're looking to add 277 jobs a year in this area. Unfortunately, we have poor stats of measurability for this. So this year is one of our charges where we're actually surveying our sector and getting a more accurate measurement of just the job creation that's going on, because we know this year we've met that target, and we know it's going on, but unfortunately it's not being recorded. So hopefully next year I can come back with numbers to directly support that. If we do that, we're looking at additional $786 million in output to the area, an additional $27 million in direct taxes going into the services needed in this county, just by that small change that we can make in this sector of the economy. A couple of quick things the EDC also does. As you know, we're responsible for enterprise zone, and basically you can see on top $18 million a year stay in this economy as a result, without going to Sacramento, as a result of this program. Below it, you can see some of the assistance we give. These are companies on the other side that we support on a daily basis in terms of different types of assistance. We give them all the way through. And the last comment I want to leave with you came from a presentation, came out about a week ago, and this is powerful. It's something we've just got to grasp. In today's world, the strong economies will create and attract resources. The weaker are going to fall further behind. We have to start moving away from trying to recruit to a weak economy and start rebuilding our economy that attracts strong companies. And that's the shift that we've made with EDC. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions of Mr. LaSalle's? Supervisor Kehoe?
Mr. Lascelles, at the risk of embarrassing you, let me make this statement. In my mind, under your leadership, there has become a sense of professionalism, urgency, excitement, and accomplishment in economic development. I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I think we all feel the same. Thank you, Mr. Lascelles, for taking the time to present today and the information.
Thank you very much for your time, and I apologize for being so long.
Very much so.
Okay, now we will move on to the consent calendar. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They may be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested person may request an item be removed from the consent calendar for a discussion and consideration. I have requests to remove items C1 and C3.
Move approval of the consent calendar as distributed to the public and the membership?
Second.
With the amendment.
As amended, yeah.
Yes.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will start with item C1. Are you going to address this, Mr. Lees, or?
What we're requesting here, our contract with Channel 11 RCAC had ended, and so what we did was went out for an RFP to look for providers, including RCAC, which is Channel 11 here. And because of that, we need to extend our existing contract with them. And of course, we've increased our breadth of what we're asking for, the level of services that we're looking for, because as mentioned, and as this board has directed me, we are looking for also a provider that's going to be able to put us in a position to put all of our meetings online, archive them so that they're available to the public. And so we have gone out for an RFP on that, but in the meantime, we need to extend existing contracts with Channel 11 so that we continue to have them provide the service till we complete everything.
Thank you. Okay, I have a request to speak from Mr. Gary Cadd, followed by Charles Alexander.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and staff, ladies and gentlemen. We've been coming forward for many months now, asking to move forward with the putting your meetings and also the Planning Commission meetings online where the public may, at their pleasure, view them. With this issue coming up here, is moving forward and giving the video and on Channel 11. But I'm wondering where's the movement on the video part. I know it's been mentioned that the city of Reading has a fairly expensive system they have over there. It's a good system, but it's very expensive. And it happens that the company they're using is very good, but again, the expense. There are other companies that are less expensive. City of Sacramento. I had a whole list here at one time of all the cities that are doing it, and it would probably cost 10 to 15,000, nowhere near the 30 or 40,000 that's been mentioned before here. For a one-time startup, and then it would cost roughly $500 to $1,000 a month for the archiving to where folks could see these videos. And imagine you're probably going to move forward and pass this contract, but we in the public were hoping that you would incorporate both the video and everything all into one and move forward with it. But we highly encourage you to do that because the public. Oh, when you look at Intermountain area, you go to MacArthur, French Gulch. I mean, we've got a widely diverse populace in this county. In the wintertime, it's hard sometimes to get from the mountain areas down to the city. And plus the fact that your meetings are mostly all during 8 to 5 during the day. And a lot of folks just can't come to those meetings, and there's issues they'd like to view and see what is said and what's going on. So I highly recommend that you do move forward with the video. I know that it's been said that you don't have the money for it, but I think that in lieu of presenting yourself to the public, where the public can see what you're doing, and in their own time online, move forward with this issue. So I'm hoping in the very near future we're going to be hearing something that you are moving forward with video, that you have found some money to move forward to put the videos online. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cadd. Mr. Lee, I'll let you take both speakers, then you can address the questions. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Alexander?
Thank you for the opportunity here this morning to address the board on the matter of the proposed agreement. Now, under this agreement, no amendment of policy would be possible without all parties agreeing. That would mean then that if we're going to podcast the meetings, there would have to be a second effort, a duplicative effort to collect video, i.e. a second set of cameras and a second set of camera personnel, etc., just to collect duplicative footage for the podcasting. Otherwise, it would require agreement of both parties to the proposed agreement in order to use the existing footage. And that agreement would need to be changed so as to allow for future podcasting of meetings. During the primary election, there were certain supervisors who lamented that certain things, certain information wasn't getting out on certain initiatives, and it would seem to me that they would have had an easier time of it were those meetings podcast, so that people at their leisure could go back and review the footage for themselves. About a month or so ago, it was said that podcasting is not necessary as per the de minimis, compliance level. Well, why do we want to stop at that level? As one speaker said about a month ago, and I'm paraphrasing here, why is it that we are not able to set the example for other communities to follow? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Mr. Lees, would you like to address any of the...
You bet. Be happy to. Again, as directed and as I reported back to the board in a previous meeting, we are going forward with the ability to have this on the internet, and this contract that we're asking you to approve today is just an extension of our existing contract until we have that lined up. But let me tell you specifically because, and share some data with you so you know I'm not just talking up here. And I know the five of you will hold me to this. We actually have it online right now on an internet site. Now I say we, it's not Shasta County, but there is a provider in eastern Shasta County that has put all of our meetings online. I don't know that they're to what extent they're archived yet, but it is someone that has done that and has made that available. That's not what we want to go, and I understand that there is some real advantages to be able to archive, not only archive, but to also edit and bookmark those different agenda items, similar to what the City of Reading is doing, but without the cost. I'm going to tell you exactly where we're at in that process, but first, while I'm thinking about it, I want to respond to Mr. Alexander's comment about the duplicity. Fortunately, we have the technology where we will not have to have a separate set of cameras, a separate set of people that are providing the taping of these meetings, because our technology will allow us to just use what we have and then move forward with how we elect to have that distributed. We still plan on having it, and the reason for this contract, we still plan on having it shown on local cable TV. And we want to still make that available to the public and have that. So that's the reason for this contract. I have met with the executive director of RCAC twice in the last probably 6 weeks, more recently just last week, and then we talked on the phone yesterday. They have purchased the equipment to be able to put this and host a website that will facilitate the online showing of all of our board meetings, and they'll be able to archive that. But in addition to that, I've also met with our IT team, and it's a long process, but we started about 10 weeks ago, I'm guessing, where we actually met and had some podcast with presenters who offered services to us that we thought we could not only be able to afford, but also reach the goal that this Board of Supervisors has set and challenged me with, which is to make sure that we have available meetings to the public at all times of the day. And so with that, we had a very successful meeting. I've instructed our IT, and again, this started about 12 weeks ago, but we're getting closer. I'm not going to say the company's name at this point, or we don't have the final cost yet, but it is something that I believe is workable and that will meet the goals of everybody here. I suspect that we'll hear something from them within a couple weeks. We've got the price. We know that they have the capabilities, and we have some fine-tuning that we have to do, but I suspect that we'll be in a position shortly to have these meetings aired with the ability to also have those bookmarked, those meetings bookmarked. So if you go into the archives and want to look at just a specific segment of a meeting or a particular topic, they'll be able to do that. That was all quoted to us in the price and in the program that we're looking at going with, and so it's working well in a couple other communities, just not in California, but we believe it's a real viable solution. So what that gives us is 3 or 4 different options, or at least gives the public 3 or 4 different options. We're going to have it continue to be broadcast on on cable television in some format. We're going to have probably outside internet providers that want to host it, be able to host it also. And then we will have a contract. I will request that the board approve a contract with a specific company that will allow us to host it. The significance of this, doing the work, going with this company, is that we do not have to generate or create the space to host it, that they will do all that for us. And that's significant because that's a lot of cost involved with space, maintaining the bandwidth, and able to have people coming and going. And so it looks like a real viable solution, and I'm very optimistic that we'll get there.
Any questions of Mr. Lees? Supervisor Baugh?
Thank you, Chair Modi, and thank you for clearly stating that you are working on it and that we are going to get there and that it is the goal of the board, as well as your marching orders. We appreciate that. Meanwhile, there is a local resource that is putting it online themselves. Can we announce that and link to it? It doesn't do any good if people don't know where it's at.
we can, but it's not something that's actually, it's not an agreement that we have made with this particular individual. It's something that he has taken upon himself. But I will get you that website. I don't have it with me, but I'll get
Very
you that
good. Do you
website.
know the name of the supplier? Maybe the media here would like to contact them and announce the address.
I'm not, I just don't, I have to look at the name. I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure of the board.
Move. Second.
Moved and second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is C3, the county claims list. Ms. Rignell.
Good morning, Chairman Modi, members of the board. Connie Regnell, Auditor Controller. The
Ms.
claims-
Regnell, maybe I can move this along a little bit, please. Why don't you set the stage for why this report is presented to the Board of Supervisors, and then I have a couple of observations from one of the staff groups.
Absolutely. Each week as we prepare and audit all of the claims that have been submitted to the auditor's office for payment, any of those claims that do not meet what we deem to be within the county policies and procedures adopted by the Board of Supervisors or has been approved in advance specifically by the board, these are the items that I believe need specific approval by the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Rignell.
Mr. Foreman. Thank you for joining us this morning. I think I could benefit from some explanation as to the two items that your department has submitted. The first item, and I assume these are germane to AB 109, the first item is some gift cards for Ross in the department store for $200. And then the second item is 2 gift certificates to a local barber shop here in town. So perhaps you could give us the background on these items.
Chairman Modi and members of the board, Supervisor Kehoe, my name is Wes Foreman. I'm the Chief Probation Officer. This is related to AB 109, and this is another opportunity to share information about AB 109. Certainly, AB 109 has been an impacting bit of legislature. It is no less impacting to me. I wake up making decisions about AB 109. I go to sleep making decisions about 109, sometimes even in my dreams, and it keeps me awake sometimes talking about AB 109. In my opinion, the decisions about these choice of purchases was one of the easier decisions, and I'll explain. Human nature is such that we respond much better to praises and rewards we receive than the punishment and sanctions that are handed out. We are much more likely to repeat behaviors when we are rewarded for them. Punishment and sanctions may initially stop a behavior. However, it is more likely that it will cause us to withdraw and feel bad about ourselves. It's not behavior producing, it's behavior avoiding. In my neighborhood, the kid that was yelled at and screamed at all the time was typically the kid that ended up being the bad kid. When we put together rewards and sanctions appropriately used, we will have the greatest positive impact. There's no doubt in my mind that the board understood that in 2005 when they authorized the Chief Probation Officer to provide positive reinforcement by acknowledging events such as completions of programs, graduations, sober living, or sober drug-free milestones, and those were to assist in developing positive recreational, social, and life skills. Authorizing expenditures included refreshments for ceremonies, sport programs and equipment, bus passes, inexpensive household items, education programs, gift certificates, seminars, class tuition materials, training supplies, specialized sporting equipment, personal use items, and holiday program items. This resolution, number 205-125, is still in effect. There is also no doubt in my mind that the legislature understood the importance of rewards and incentives in passing AB 109 when they gave counties flexibility to create local programs uniquely designed to each individual county. They knew that the typical criminal justice response of adding punishment upon punishment wasn't working. They knew there was a better way. Locally, our realignment plan discusses incentives 3 times. We knew how important rewards and incentives are to motivating positive change. I am also under the impression of my authority for expenditures up to $5,000 to quickly respond to the needs of low-level offenders supported this thinking. These particular purchases were for haircuts and clothing used as a reward for graduating of a realignment offender, from graduating from a counseling program, which, and these, the haircuts and the clothing specifically targeted a need to present positively during employment interviews. All of our incentives, such as these, are discussed and supported by a treatment team, and they must have a nexus to the offender's case plan. If I misunderstood the board's intentions and my authority, I do apologize, and I will make those necessary corrections. Thank you.
Mr. Foreman, I think we all appreciate the tutorial on rewards and incentives. I have some very specific questions, and they center on fiscal accountability for these expenditures. So let's take the gift certificates for Ross, and I understand how we want people to make the best possible impression, but it is also my understanding that some organizations, such as Northern Valley Catholic